Well, Uncle Doug.
Uncle Mark.
I don't know what your attitude towards keeping snakes is, or eating fruit.
Well, negative and positive in that order.
I used to have a snake.
Suit yourself. And really, what did that snake tell you about?
I found my maybe he was shy.
You had a shy snake?
I had a bit of a shy snake.
What are we talking about?
He did bite me once.
Uncle Dan has a shy snake, everyone.
I got snake bit.
Let's move on. So, Uncle Dan, you're going to tell us about snake friends and fruit enthusiasts today.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I thought we'd delve back into the origin of us all. That fateful beginning, that flowing font from which we all flowed.
Okay.
Adam and Eve.
Adam and Steve.
No.
Oh.
I saw a sign about it. It's definitely not that.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, something to do with plugs.
Agree to disagree.
Right.
So you tell your version, Dan.
Something to do with how things plug into things. I don't know. Anyway, this is the story of two dirt people who knew nothing and ended up siring the best and worst species on Earth, depending on who you ask.
How about that?
I'll remind everyone that when last we left Genesis in episode 47, we were thoroughly confused about the two competing creation narratives that were presented in chapters 1 and 2.
Dirt woman, rib woman.
Yeah, and no, it was man and woman created at the same moment, or
out of dirt, though, right?
Well, in the next one, man's created out of dirt. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. What we weren't confused about, however, was that by the end we had two people, Adam and Eve. Or rather, actually, I shouldn't say that, because they didn't actually have names by the time we left them.
Okay.
We just had a man and a woman. Adam, of course, was the pile of dust that apparently had nostrils into which God could blow life.
Right.
Dust nostrils.
Right. And Eve, who was made by the world's first non-consensual human cloning disaster using stem cells from Adam's ribcage. So, off to a good start.
Yeah.
I do think it's funny to note the wording of that whole rib thing. So I'm just going to dive into...
It starts with, I want my baby back, baby back, baby back.
Well, no, this is I want my baby to begin with. It
doesn't roll off the tongue as well.
No, that's why it took so many centuries millennia before Chili's came up with the
Chili's
song.
could perfect.
And now announcing our new sponsor, Chili's.
That's right.
Look out, Wonder Bible.
So this is from that Bible book. Here we go. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept, and he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. And the rib which the Lord God had taken from man made he a woman, and he brought her unto the man. And Adam said, This is now bone of my bones, flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Now, no real note as to how the Lord made a rib into a woman. And if you say, God magic, then you're stuck with the problem of why bother with the roofie surgery?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, couldn't you just find there's no more nose-shaped piles of dirt out in the...
No, there's no more dirt schnozzes out there, but it's like, if you can make a woman out of a rib, that's some David Blaine impressive. That's impressive. But it's a good trick.
I always thought it said woman came from man, so she was called woman. When I was younger and read this, I'm like, it must be the etymology of the word is woe is descended from man or some shit like that. But it's not, because in other languages those two words don't have that connection.
It's Aramaic for rib.
That would be useful if this book had been written in English.
Exactly.
Which it was not. Although
what?
Yeah. Go figure. That was just bad thinking or bad planning on behalf of the Lord, because this is obviously his own true language. Anyway, nevertheless, Adam was pleased with his new rib friend.
Sure.
He even wrote a poem about her, which that's that whole this whole bone of my bones thing. So good stuff. The next sentence.
They didn't have names, but he was a poet.
Yeah.
What's the poem?
It's that whole "this is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh."
Roses are red or something like that.
Right, yeah, exactly. Anyway, the next sentence in the book is pretty famous and used quite a lot, and maybe you guys can help me make sense of it, because I just stare at it now. I thought it was one of those things, like you said, where I thought it made sense. Like all of the times that I used to hear it, I thought it made sense. And then when I actually looked at it and went, well, what does that mean? I was like, it literally, so Adam says she's bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh, and she'll be called woman because she was taken out of man. And then it says, therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh.
So mothers and fathers did not yet exist.
Yeah, that is a problem.
Right.
We don't even have the concept of mothers and fathers yet.
Right.
Those haven't been invented.
Well, yeah, because God didn't birth them. He blew into a pile of mud and stole a bone.
And Mormons notwithstanding, we have no knowledge of a heavenly mother in this book.
Right, and also these are two people so far without names nor belly buttons. Being instructed about how the family unit should work when they okay.
Do you think he had a ribby button? Like some
He must have had a scar.
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
He was no longer he wasn't whole anymore.
Yeah. For years they just assumed that men had one fewer rib than women.
I've heard that Christians believe that. Christians believe that.
Yeah.
But so that men have an asymmetrical number of ribs.
Right, because God didn't just take Adam's rib, he took humankind's rib.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Makes sense. All it makes is sense. Anyway, and what did rib sharing have to do with, how does that instruct us that we're supposed to leave our parents and then hold fast
I like
to our wife?
that was the first green program on Earth was rib share.
Anyway, that's chapter 2 of Genesis, which ends with one of the great non sequiturs of all time, which is just all of a sudden, right after that they become flesh of one flesh, the next line is, and the man and his wife were both naked and were not ashamed. Great. Good for them, I guess. Bad for them? I don't know. Either way, here comes the good stuff, because the Lord has planted a lovely garden. Yeah. In which Adam, and presumably Eve now too, was an indentured servant. We knew that before Eve came along, Adam was set to work in the garden. It wasn't just paradise; he was the gardener. So
classic religious family,
right?
Yep.
And in that garden, back before Eve came along, depending on which creation story you believe, of course, God said to Adam, "You may surely eat of every tree of the garden, but the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in that day that you eat of it, you shall surely die."
Okay.
A solemn warning.
Yeah.
First of all, could he not have just called it the apple tree and made it a little bit clearer?
Look, I want to clear something up. We don't know that these were apples.
The tree of majesty and maelstrom.
Right.
Which one is that? Is that the pear?
Or just play it down a bit and say, hey, that tree's poisonous. Don't eat that tree.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you shall surely die, which they didn't. But
Whoa. Spoiler alert. What are you doing?
Whoa, Cody.
Calm yourself down. We haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
So, yes, you're going to die. Okay, thanks, God. Good tip. But there are also critters in the garden.
And also, they don't know what death is. They've never seen death.
They don't know anything about anything.
Right.
So death, what does that even mean?
They're naked, unashamed, and they do not have matching rib pairings.
Right.
Yeah. Like they were just literally just brought to life, and he's like, I'm going to tell you about marriage and horticulture. Understand?
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, there are critters in the garden, as you have mentioned, and they can talk. Side note, remember how God kept giving Adam all these animals, and he was supposed to name them all, and none of them were a good companion,
right?
Quote unquote companion.
So
for Adam.
He was showing God all the beasts of the field, etc., or showing Adam to pick as a companion. Actually,
yeah. If you recall.
Pre-Eve, I think.
Yes,
and so in rejecting them, Adam somehow named them all.
He was naming them, and then I'm guessing now that I read this, he was having conversations with them, figuring out what they're all about.
It was like speed dating.
It was speed dating.
Interspecial speed dating.
Yeah.
Did any of these dates end in consummation? Do we know that?
I mean,
Did any of them not?
right? This is the question. And then
His name should have been Randy. Randy and Eve.
I think we've just invented the porn version of this story, which I want to see.
Randy and Rib Lady.
Riblet. Anyway, so Adam apparently did not have enough in common with an emu or an orangutan, and so
Or an ocelot.
right,
Or an ossifrage.
a greater or lesser owl.
An orangutan.
So God had to give him himself only with tits. Anywho, the sneakiest sneak of the garden was the serpent,
Sure.
and I want you to imagine him. I'm picturing, by the way, the Geico gecko, just because we will learn later that he had to have somewhere to fall. So I'm thinking he walked upright at this point.
Oh, because of the curse that he was.
Because at the end, because he's not slithering on the ground just yet.
Good point. He's not a snake at this point.
Not a snake.
It says serpent, right?
It does say serp. Well, I mean, it says something in Hebrew.
And this is the origin of David Icke's lizard people.
right.
Probably.
We're all lizard people. Anyway,
It was
so
Queen Elizabeth of Windsor.
maybe maybe one of you fellows can explain to me why a talking animal would have anything to gain from rhetorical craftiness, because I don't get it. But crafty he was.
But he did Satan, isn't it?
Yeah, but
No,
but
it's not.
It's not Satan.
It doesn't say
It
that
doesn't,
anywhere.
right.
It is a fucking snake.
So that's a little backfilling.
That it's 100% backfilling. There's no mention of anything other than a snake, a serpent.
So in Genesis at this point, he's just another creature
Just one of the critters that's
making
walking
his
around.
way the only way he knows how.
with unclear motivations. Like, why is this serpent doing this? What does it have to gain?
Well, somehow this serpent actually has some insider knowledge. Maybe he heard God talking. I don't know what. But he says,
Maybe he was a failed rib experiment. It's like the island of Dr. Moreau.
Kill me.
It's like the fly. He just keeps putting ribs in the fucking replicator.
anyway, yeah. Somehow, and I'm guessing that the serpent has been experimenting with the mushrooms in the garden because he can see straight through the bullshit.
Right.
Okay? And he's like, hey, you should probably eat that fruit. You're not going to die. You're going to be... It's called the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. You're going to get knowledge.
Yeah.
Isn't knowledge a good thing? If you just eat that fancy fruit. So he convinces Eve that she should know the difference between good and evil, and somehow also that's going to make her like a god. Somehow the contention of this book is that the knowledge of good and evil makes them like God. And he says, you're not going to die.
In that, is it as literal as they will create life, like man and woman will create life?
How does
like
knowing the difference between good and evil make you create life?
Well, before they ate of the tree, they
Well-
didn't have sex, right?
Didn't they?
I don't know.
I don't know,
It doesn't
too.
say, does it?
It doesn't tell us.
They were not ashamed of being naked, so they were clearly in their 20s.
right.
So they were clearly horny.
Right. They were
Yeah.
created at 20.
Well, I mean, as we'll learn later, and I'm not going to get to the whole Cain and Abel stuff.
Yeah.
But as we learn in the beginning of the Cain and Abel story, she doesn't have babies. She has men. It's this very, very strange
right.
thing. Matter of fact, yeah.
Well, I don't need to make this whole segment about bringbacks and throwbacks, but she has men and Bigfoots. But we'll move on.
right. Yeah, literally, I'm just going to read the first part of Genesis chapter 4 since you brought it up. That says, Now Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, saying, I have gotten a man with the help of the Lord. And again, she bore her brother. Anyway, yeah, they were apparently instant men.
And it bears repeating that the first man born on earth was a murderer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's, I mean, that's
off to a good start.
Yeah.
off to a really good start. But this story might have some explanation for that. Anyway, she's decided that she believes the serpent, for whatever reason. But I'm going to pause here and ask, in the story of this big, dangerous piece of knowledge that God was hoarding from the two dopey humans in the garden, the thing that he was hoarding was the knowledge of good and evil?
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
Well, it's come to mean sex and sexuality, and hasn't it? And it in the Christian universe, and it's specifically the evil of female sexuality, is what I've always taken the story of Adam and Eve to
I
mean.
think that's the backfilled story.
Well, is it, or is it?
Well, I don't know.
Right there in.
Well,
in
I just want to know. I just want to know, what evil could two naked people in a garden possibly do?
You never watch Cops. You've
Bad
never seen
boy, bad boy.
You've never seen Cops Tallahassee.
Yeah. I mean, more to the point, as we're about to learn, they were already unwittingly doing evil. Nudity is bad, okay? But they didn't know it. So how is knowing it that big a deal one way or the other?
Because when God comes back in a minute, they're hiding because they've eaten the fruit and now they realize they're naked. They've entered their mid-30s.
Right.
And they don't want to be seen.
Yeah, it just seems like is there something about the knowledge of good and evil that God doesn't want us to know about? Like, maybe he's really shitty at good and evil. He failed good and evil in deity
now,
school.
hold on a minute.
I'm just saying.
If we've established anything in 60-plus podcasts, that is unsupportable.
The only evidence you have for that is the entire rest of the Bible.
Right, exactly. And everything that's passed since the writing of it.
Up until today and beyond.
Yeah. It's like he failed good and evil in deity school, and that's why the Bible is so fucking confusing, and that's why he didn't want Adam and Eve to know about it. So anyway,
Can I ask, what would have happened if Eve had not eaten of the fruit?
We'd all be still living in
there wouldn't be we. Theoretically, those two people would still just be gardening.
or we'd all be naked and still living in Missouri, I guess.
There's that.
Yeah.
There is that.
That little, for our Mormon friends out there, if you don't know what that is, I'm sorry. We'll talk about it another time.
Yeah. So the serpent is effective, and Eve tries the fruit, and she gives one to Adam, who's just standing right there, and he also eats it, and ta-da! They didn't die. Story over.
Yeah.
Moral, God's a liar. Don't listen to him.
Yeah. I think the interpretation is now they've become mortal and they'll die eventually, which is backfilling.
It is not what the book says.
It's not what the book says.
The book says, surely that
die.
day you will die.
And they didn't.
And
But Dan, a day is 1,000
didn't.
years.
No, it isn't. It's a day. They are kicked out, and they live many, many days.
Yeah.
So, God's a liar. So there we go. Psych. Obviously, that's how it should have gone down, but no, all we know, as we all know, this book's just getting started. So they eat the fruit and instantly notice that they're naked, and they realize that somehow that nakedness is apparently wrong for obvious and totally apparent reasons.
Yeah.
One assumes things were starting to sag.
Yeah, exactly.
So they invent sewing real quick and make some clothes out of fig leaves, which I was surprised to learn in my little bit of research. They are not that big, so they had a lot of sewing to do.
Sure.
I'm not sure what they used for thread or needles.
Right.
But-
They'd perfected very fine steel making.
Right, yeah, exactly. They were good stitchers. Anyway,
Or that God endowed Adam with the same equipment that my parents endowed me with, and he didn't need a lot of fig leaves.
oh, that's cute. So
Cody, get rid of that.
there they are in their new duds, and they hear God walking in the garden.
In their fig pants.
Right, exactly. And apparently God takes walks, so he's walking, and they go hide, as you mentioned. And, yeah.
You know how you know God was walking?
How?
It's only one set of footprints.
Stupid. Anyway, hiding from the omnipotent being, super effective. You would think that would not, he'd just be able to know where it was.
Right.
Anyway, apparently they were good hiders because instead of just knowing what was going on, God couldn't find them and eventually resorted to hollering. When they came out, God was like, "Hey, yo, what the fuck you hiding? And what's with the leaves there?" And Adam was like, "Look, I heard you coming, and I was like, holy shit, I'm fucking naked over here, so I got embarrassed, and I took off." And
God's like, I'm walking here.
right, exactly.
I love that we've now situated the Garden of Eden in Hoboken.
Yeah. I don't know if you know about it, but so then God says, "Who the fuck told you that you're naked?" Wait, I love that moment. Who told you you're naked?
The lizard.
Right. Well, that's when he figures it out. Wait a minute. Did you eat from that fucking tree? I told you not to eat from that fucking vafanculo. Adam! And Adam was like, "Yeah, it's the lady. It's the girl you gave me. She done it. It's her fault. She's no good. She gave me the fruit. See?
That dirty rib bitch.
Just spare a moment there for the amount of misery that has been paid upon half of the population of the world because of that sentence.
Because of a fruit."
Yeah.
Yeah.
The woman gave it to me. It's her
Don't
fault.
make this about me.
Right. Which is funny because then Eve immediately turns around and says, "Yeah, it was only because this fucking snake started talking and I got confused and he said you were lying and I wouldn't die if I ate it. And then look, I didn't die. So wait a minute. That means..." And God said, "Hey, look over there," and hit her in the back of the head with a pipe. Well, no, he didn't do that. But he
gave her a forget-me-now.
Right, exactly. But he did decide to punish them all. And yeah, how stupid is it that Eve takes the brunt of all of this because she was the one smart enough to go, "Yeah, maybe it isn't true."
And Adam didn't put up a fight when she's like, "You need to eat this fruit." He's like, "Okay."
Oh, she didn't say you need to. She just handed him one.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's literally just she gave him one, he ate, she ate.
At least she needed some convincing.
Yeah, exactly. So, this was not Eve being evil and Adam being, like, innocent. Just,
But yeah,
she didn't trick it. Like, I thought growing up, somehow I got the idea that she tricked Adam into eating the fruit.
Again, that's the backfilling, and that's supported that women are conniving and evil.
Right.
And
but think about
and
that.
that men are, women, basically it comes down to women have to cover their ankles and their hair because men can't control themselves.
Right.
Right.
We'd still be in the garden if it weren't for that rascally woman.
Right.
And when God confronts Adam, he flipped on her like a New York lawyer.
Yeah.
I mean, just instantly like, she did it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Like a little bitch.
Like-
Just fucking take your licks.
Nice character, Adam.
Yeah, so there you have it. Then God punishes everybody. He makes the serpent slither around on the earth and eat dust.
Which is not what snakes eat.
The
but that's
serpent's
fine.
like, "Oh shit!
Oh no, don't!" And
that women must bleed during the full moon every month.
Well, I love this. I'm still on the serpent thing. He says, "I will put enmity between you and the woman." Apparently, this is the origin of the cause of women's fear of snakes. And
Enmity is more than fear.
yeah,
There's outright hatred.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And between your offspring and her offspring, he shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. So apparently, there's a lot of snake stepping in the future.
Yeah.
For the offspring of the snake and the woman. To the woman, God said, "I will surely multiply your pain in childbearing. In pain you shall bring forth children. Your desire shall be contrary to your husband. Your desire shall be contrary to your husband, and he shall rule over you."
Okay, I'm sorry. The punishment for Eve is that he's going to make childbirth more painful. So
That's the first part of the punishment.
So the pain of childbirth going forward from this moment is her fault.
Well, if you're giving birth
For
to
all
fully
women.
grown men, I can imagine
Right.
it's an incredibly intense birth.
It doesn't feel good.
Darling, he weighs in at 192 pounds.
Yeah, exactly.
Healthy baby man.
But also, your desire shall be contrary to your husband, but he shall rule over you.
Yeah, fucking hell.
What is the
Meaning, you're going to want things that your husband doesn't want, and you don't get them because
Yeah.
he's bigger.
Yeah.
Oh, what a
So
nice
this is
story.
not backfilling. This is right there in the.
That's
in
just
black
right there
and
in black and white.
Yeah.
Man rules over woman. Shut your whore mouth.
It's right there in the police report.
I don't care what you want. It's my way or the highway.
Yeah.
And then, but Adam gets punished too, and he gets the most lines spent on his punishment.
Okay.
So he says to Adam, "Because you have listened to the voice of your wife never listen to your wife. The messaging is all good here.
Did it not say earlier in the book that you're supposed to cleave to your wife and be one flesh?
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Just don't listen to her.
All right.
Because you have listened to the voice of your wife and have eaten of the tree of which I commanded you, you shall not eat of it. Cursed is the ground because of you. In pain you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles it shall bring forth for you. And you shall eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your face you shall eat bread, till you return to the ground. For out of it you were taken, for you are dust, and to dust you shall return. So he gets thorns.
Wow.
Sometimes there are thorns.
Is that paleo? Is that where paleo comes from? Which one is that? Which one of the diets?
It's the thorn and thistle diet.
It's not gluten-free, I can tell you that.
Yeah. So wow, what a sad day for him too. Some things are prickly now.
It's quite an overreactive parenting moment, isn't it?
it's the worst.
Look,
this God sucks.
If you have teenagers, you know they're gonna test the fences. They're gonna test the boundaries. So you can't just take away their computer, their iPhone for a year every time they do some minor infraction, like you to Apple.
Or just say, "I'm no more epidurals for you."
Right.
What the fuck?
Right.
Just because your daughter talks to a snake doesn't mean...
It's so funny to me. And then, of course, there's another tree that God was worried about. God apparently didn't... Like, fuck you. If you're an omnipotent God and you don't want someone to eat a tree, just don't put them near the tree.
Or don't make the tree.
Don't make the tree. Put the tree outside of the garden. There's a million solutions to this.
Build a wall.
Yeah.
Anyway, God realizes, oh shit, there's another tree, which is the tree of life, and so just to make sure. And by the way, okay, and many people have written about this, but this is where we get a very confusing little moment. The Lord God said, "Behold, the man has become like one of us in the knowing of good and evil. Now, lest he reach his hand and take also of the tree of life and eat and live forever. Therefore, the God sent him out of the Garden of Eden."
So there was an antidote.
I'm just going to say, us.
I was about to say us. He's become like us. Who's us?
There
right.
are
The royal we.
It's not the royal we. It is the plural from the Hebrew.
This is pre-us. Right.
This is. There are multiple gods, and this was written in a time when there were plenty of gods, and this is the Bible acknowledging, yet again...
Yeah.
Blasphemy.
As we've explored many other times, there not only are many gods mentioned in the Bible,
Right.
the God of the Bible, Yahweh, apparently,
Yeah.
is constantly referencing the existence of other gods.
Yeah.
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 It's just a fact. There are other gods in the Bible. They are real. They exist in as much as the God of the Bible
He is the
exists.
meanest mean girl in the God's mean girl section.
Right. So, lest Adam and Eve get to have that other good fruit and actually live forever and be real gods themselves, the Lord God sends them out of the garden. They go... and so I guess they have to make their own garden now? I don't know. Anyway, and then he drove out the man, and at the east of the Garden of Eden he placed the cherubim and a flaming sword that turned every way to guard the way to the tree of life.
I don't remember the flaming sword.
Yeah, I remember that.
I'm just saying, maybe you should have thought of that first.
Yeah. Put the flaming sword by the tree in the beginning of the story.
Right. Don't just say, probably shouldn't eat that. Fucking put a sword there.
Or you know what?
I think this book doesn't make sense.
Put all the apple trees on one of the many continents that the authors of the Bible did not know the existence of.
Right.
Right? That could have been a better choice.
like Atlantis.
Yeah, and Lemuria.
This was Pangea at this time. It
That's
was
true.
all one
This
thing.
was 4,000 years ago.
So, all right. Well, that's the story. From then on, they go and they start making babies. Sorry, men. And
Wow.
that's what we got.
Thanks for clearing that up for us.
And as is, I think, the moral of all of the Bible stories as we discuss them, the moral of this one is the same. This is a stupid book.
And bitches be cray.
And bitches be cray.
If you see your woman standing by a tree talking to a snake, boy, you watch out. There's a flaming sword in your future.
Yes, indeed.
And a painful childbirth.
Let's move on.
Let's move on.